Oh yeah, we're back, Brian.
Yeah, hey guys, what a great start to 2025.
It has been it's
What
been a start.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a couple lanes here. I mean, I don't think anybody could talk about the start of 2025 without talking a little bit of politics and what's been
Yeah.
happening in our
Yeah.
country. And can I just say, as a Floridian, why don't you come down to the Gulf of America
Come
and
on.
visit us? Isn't that great? It's the greatest thing. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, you know what I think though? I mean, all jokes aside about political preferences or whatever, you can't tell me that America is not breathing fresh air right now. Like it or
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? There's just this sense of, man, this is who we're supposed to be. This is the way it's supposed to be, and things like that. Those are just like little symbolic things
Mhm.
of kind of American culture, American identity is back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Feels
you're just
good.
seeing this, this is obviously Trump 2.0 is what they're calling it. The first term he was a little more, well, honestly, if you've ever listened to his conversation with Joe Rogan, I believe it was, he was pretty transparent that he was just shocked that he won.
Yeah,
And so, of course, all the career guys come in and kind of just take over. And he did some things, whatever. But this time around, I mean, he knows what to expect. He's laser focused, unlike I've ever heard of Donald Trump being
yeah, and
focused. And
speaking with humility and
yeah,
calm, he doesn't come across arrogant and interruptive as he
hmm
has before. I mean, there were some of those debates where I was like feeling painful because he just looked a
yeah,
little bit kind of like a jerk, and that's what you sense when you see him now. It's
hmm
like I'm not trying to be somebody. I'm just trying to get the
yeah,
job done,
yeah.
and I think that's really to his credit because I think honestly it's a better version of him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, he's still got that personality, and he still, knows how to be direct and funny and whatnot. But honestly, and I don't know, we can theorize about it. I really do believe it's because I mean the man was within millimeters of losing his life back in the summer,
that changed.
and that'll change a man,
Yeah.
to some degree. So,
There's
but
two
yeah,
things,
I mean
two
we've
things about him I want to bring up that I think are so cool. Executive orders are amazing. The fact that
mhm,
he's putting an exclamation point on everything that he said he was going to do in the election campaign cycle. Isn't that refreshing?
yeah,
Here's what I'm going to do as it relates to the border, and now I'm just going to do it.
yep.
And on day one, and then to watch all these liberal media people just go berserk about it.
Oh, just watching him melt down is
Who was
glorious.
that? Who was the Selena Gomez? Did you see this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, Selena, I'm sure you'll never watch the Church of Ants podcast, but
Yeah. Hey
look,
girl.
we all know you're an actress, okay? And that was
Well,
the biggest display of nonsense we've ever
I was
seen.
gonna I was gonna say that's got to be her best acting performance I've ever seen. Because anytime I've ever seen her act, I'm like, what? She's just stone and wooden and like just so boring. But that was a pretty good performance in that
I don't know
TikTok.
if there's a way you can find the clip and insert it here as you edit this, but that would be a piece of work. I mean, my goodness, and it just shows you the nonsensical nature of people. I mean, is there really anybody in the world? Is there really anybody who does not want violent lawbreakers, child, you know, predators, pedophiles, murderers? Is there anybody that wants them here?
Apparently, yeah, but I mean,
I think it's a show, Luke. I think it's a show. I don't
yeah,
think in their heart they do. I don't think they really want them here. I think they conflate
hmm
this issue with this issue.
yeah,
And they therefore, I mean, she was, oh, the family. We're not talking about families right now. We're talking
no,
about thugs and
yeah,
losers and criminals and gang members. No, I just don't think in anybody's heart that there's anybody that actually wants
yeah,
them here. And so it's what all the commentators, Sean Hannity and Jesse Waters and the Charlie Clerks of the world, they're just calling common sense.
yep,
It's just
yep,
common sense. So there's the executive orders, but then I tell you one of my favorite things that's happening right now is who he's appointed in the cabinet.
hmm
Um, my particularly Pete Hegseth. Now,
hmm
I am actually reading his book right now, War on Warriors, and I want to put a link in the show notes if you don't mind to
sure,
that book. And I just want to say you need to read that book. It's basically about wokeness, how wokeness infiltrated the military. And I'm gonna warn you, there's language in there that is not exactly Sunday school language. So I don't need to get an email about that. Just but man, it is so amazing that the guy that wrote that book, and I mean, he pings it right on the forehead. I mean, it's about women in combat, transgenderism in the military. It's about how the wokeness infiltrated the generals from a political perspective and how they brought all these DEI things into the military. And to watch him now, not knowing anything really about him other than he was on Fox and Friends, but watching him now as the guy who wrote that book, it's post Biden because he ended up leaving the military after Biden. So it's a recent book. To watch him now, he is the Secretary of Defense. He is in charge of all the military of the United States of America. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to know that he's coming in with this mindset. I know people can argue that, oh, he's not qualified because he never, I think he was a major. That was his highest rank or whatever. But truth is he's coming in with a focus of, we're just going to make the military great. We're not going to focus on making it, inclusive or diverse, although that's going to just organically happen to some degree in the process. It's about, are you the best of the best and ready to serve and defend this country? And that's that, again, like you said, it's refreshing just to see it, just common sense come back into play in a major department like the Defense Department.
Let me give you one piece from the book that I thought was just fascinating in this regard. He's talking about how really it started with Obama. And then you really you got 12 years of really bad policy stretching from Obama to Biden. And one thing he said that I did not realize is that in order to be inclusive with transgender people and women in the infantry, I'm talking about women in combat, not women I'm talking about women in combat out there fighting, needing to carry the same bags, same guns, same speed, same strength as any infantry. You know what they did? They lowered the physical expectation for women to include them in infantry. And he threw out the stat. They had to be able to do 11 push-ups.
Yeah.
11 push-ups. If you can only do 11 push-ups, you are not fit to be in the military. And then this was interesting. Their 2-mile time limit was 21 minutes. That's 10.5-minute miles. That is a slow jog.
Yeah.
That's like me jogging.
Yeah.
This is.
I'm not a runner, but I think I could make that time.
That's really slow. I mean, you're far from a real runner if this is just jogging. That's on a treadmill. What is that? It's really low. It's really slow.
Yeah, it's
5.0 or something. So it's just not. And you're thinking they lowered the standard to be inclusive. And what does that do? It puts the entire military at risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the tragedy of what has happened. And I'm so glad that somebody is in there now that can answer this. And then you just go right down the line with those appointees. You go right down the line to Kristi Noem and all the others, Marco Rubio. These are just solid people that have clear. How about RFK Jr. on the health issue? Let me tell you something, man. You start getting into this health stuff, and we're obviously really into it. It's crazy what we've allowed. I mean, just one, for instance. Most of the coloring and additives in American food are illegal in Europe.
Yeah.
And it's poison. It's poison. And so to see somebody that's not a transgender freak and some crazy, whatever person, just a normal, in shape, informed man that cares about health.
Yeah. And not somebody that, I mean, again, he was a Democrat until literally about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And not somebody who we would, we're not crazy about his stance on abortion, but that's not what his job is here. His job is to go in and focus on health. And that's another thing I appreciate about the whole approach and administration this time around is that it's not focused on, being a partisan as much as it is on just they're trying to shake things up and disrupt things. And then, of course, I mean, he's not officially part of anything in terms of a cabinet position, but we got Elon Musk running Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. I mean, how glorious of an idea is that?
I think, hello. I love how a guy, I think it was, they turned down $420 million in government contracts that were to be renewed right about now.
Mm.
They're going for it, man. I mean, they're bro. And I think we're going to be able to look. What I'm seeing so far is this: we are going to be safer, we are going to be wealthier, and we are going to be healthier.
Yeah.
In the next 4 years because of what we're seeing right now, and that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, because it's common sense, like you said, and that was in his inaugural address. He said, "We will bring common sense back to America." And again, it's not about necessarily one ideology or another. It's just doing what just makes sense. Right. And so, so you said, just to make sure I get the right link, that's The War on Warriors by Pete Hegseth. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll make sure that does get linked in the notes.
Very interesting book. Very intriguing. And I'm almost finished with it right now. So,
well, let's shift gears in a little bit with a little bit of time we have here. Let's do the quick recap of college football playoff. First 12-team playoff. Ohio State takes the title. The SEC looked horrible the whole college season, if we're honest, but especially in the playoff. Big Ten's looking pretty dominant. Notre Dame's looking better than they've honestly looked in years. Anyways, that's my initial, kind of thoughts. Anything to add there?
My other philosophy is I'm going to say what Nick Saban and Kurt Herbstreit were saying during the selection process. I love this idea. First of all, I thought it was great, but what the first round revealed to us, the SMUs and the Clemsons getting smoked, and I can't remember the other guys. BYU. It was BYU.
Mm-hmm. BYU. Well, BYU got a bye, and Arizona State, they got byes, and then they got smoked.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what it is. Here's what they said, and here's my takeaway. If you are not a Power 5 team, or whatever it is, if you're not in the Big Ten and you are not heavy schedule, your strength of schedule and your, all that should weigh into your ranking. In other words, even if Alabama is 9-2 and Arizona State's 11-0 or whatever it is, Arizona State should be the ones that have to win in, not win out.
Yeah.
So I don't know that anybody would argue that Bama could have beat BYU or whoever else they were.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. The fundamental problem is for I don't know, for fairness, DEI maybe. We're trying to bring these Mountain West teams or Sun Belt teams or whatever up into that upper echelon, and then it's like they've got to lose out. So if they go 12-0, it's like we automatically put them in. But when you compare strength of schedule, they're not a top 10 team. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
I'd rather play Tulane at 11-1 than Bama at 7-4, honestly.
Yeah.
So now again, the argument against that is, well, that means you just favor Alabama. It's not favoring Alabama. Alabama, you should start with recruiting class. You should go to strength of schedule. Who are the athletes? Who are they playing? And what is their record? And just record can't be the answer. So, but beyond that, I take away that I thought it was very good. The first 2 rounds, the first round and then the semifinal round was good. The final game was good, of course. And I didn't cheer for any of them because I didn't like any team that was in it. But I do like Notre Dame. I was hoping Notre Dame would win. I like their coach. I like what he's done. I like the turnaround. I like how they walked away from a hype coach who has been a struggle bus down at LSU.
Yeah.
I like how Marcus Freeman just came in and then on the other hand, although I don't like Ohio State for any reason whatsoever, they were dominant, man. They lost to Oregon, they lost to Michigan, and people want to be critical of that. Man, that's a high stakes game every year. It doesn't matter who's ranked what. And you got to remember this too. If you are playing Division I football for either Ohio State or Michigan, you are elite. You're an elite high school player. I don't care if Jim Harbaugh left and Sharon is in. They will be elite again.
Sure.
It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
They're just always reloading. So you got to, don't look, oh, well, they lost to an unranked team. That's not a normal unranked team.
Yeah.
And it's an unranked team that caught fire at the end of the year, by the way, playing really, really well.
Yeah.
So then Ohio State comes and proves all they need to prove. They ran the table.
Yeah.
Convincingly so.
Yeah.
So I thought football was awesome. On that note, if I may, dude, I'm pumped about West Virginia football because we brought back Rodriguez.
You called it. You predicted that a few weeks ago on our episode a few weeks ago.
I mean, it was a no-brainer to me. I've been a West Virginia fan as long as I can remember. And if you are a West Virginia fan, live in the glory days of those early 2000s whenever we were on top of college football, man. I mean, we were one game away from the national championship. 2000, I think it was 2007. We played in 4, I think, BCS bowl games. One, we beat Georgia, we beat Oklahoma, we beat Clemson. I think it was Clemson. I mean, we talking about Peach Bowls, Fiesta Bowls, Sugar Bowls, and big games.
Yep.
And I mean, that was when Rodriguez was there. He was a house cleaner, and he's still got some gas in the tank. And the only negative for our fan base is that everybody is like, well, he left us. And you know what, man? He was in his early 40s, and he was ambitious, and he left for a prestigious program. It didn't work out, but everywhere he's been a winner except for Michigan.
Yep.
And it just feels to me like, man, and then he's done a great job with the transfer portal. West Virginia's back, baby. Just watch out. Watch out. I mean, they might get the Big 12 run this year. I mean, nobody's going to call it, but they could be a playoff contender.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think they'll be back in the top 25. I think that's an easy goal for them, if not more. But conclusion of the matter with college football this year. Love the 12-team playoff, and honestly, I love seeing the I guess the heightened competition that has come from the transfer portal. And this comes from an Alabama fan who's watching my dynasty not die, but be less dominant. And that is because the talent's getting kind of evenly distributed, but it makes for some really competitive games. Yeah. 12-team playoffs, great. They do need to tweak it. If you win your conference or your power conference, I don't care who you are, you don't get an automatic bye. That's just ridiculous.
I agree. And another thing that we can take from the NFL, this is one more final word on this. They should reseed after the first round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because Oregon was the most dominant team throughout the season, and then they wind up having to play, Ohio State, who's easily could arguably wound up being the most dominant team in the playoff. So
you should have reshuffled back, lowest seed. If you advance next round, lowest seed plays highest seed, and so on.
Yeah,
that's how the NFL is. I mean, think about that. So the advantage of getting the number 1 seed during the regular season is you get the easy street. You get the home field advantage, and you play the lesser team. Now in the AFC playoffs this year, I guess we're transitioning to the NFL.
Yeah, let's go. That's the next thing.
You had the top 4 teams in the AFC win, so you had 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we still had to play the Texans, and then of course we had to play the Bills. So we played the best of the best. Of course, I'm a Chiefs fan. Everybody knows that. So I think that same principle goes with the playoffs in college football. They should reshuffle the deck, and I agree with you. Just because you win the conference doesn't mean you're the 4th seed.
Yeah, I'm okay if you win your conference, if you're the Power 4, Power 5, whatever you want to call it. I'm okay if you get an automatic bid, but not an automatic buy. That's just ridiculous.
I agree.
That'd be like giving in the March Madness tournament for basketball. That'd be like giving like just because you won the SEC, you're a number 1 seed. No, that's not necessarily going to be the case. So let's talk NFL in the few minutes we have left here.
On Monday, Super Bowl Sunday is this weekend.
It's happening. Also, hey, side note, Church Advance is conference is this week. It's just a few days away. Speaking of current events that are awesome.
As we're recording this, we only have 5 seats left for a men's stakeout on Wednesday night. It's going to be amazing, dude. Mike Stone. I'm cooking 14-ounce ribeyes for everybody in attendance.
I'm glad I RSVP for that one.
It's going to be very, very significant. And then Thursday, man, with the pastors that are here, it's just going to be upload. So by the time this is released, I'm going to be geared up, ready to welcome you guys to Jacksonville, Florida. And then, of course, right into Super Bowl weekend. So yeah, there's still time. I mean, again, like I said, as of right now, 4 days from now, there may not be any seats left, but you could check for the dinner. But anybody can come to the Thursday session, so it's not like you know. So hopefully, if you're still on the fence and you might want to come in, it's not like we could have hundreds of people come.
Sure.
We got room for anybody who wants to come on Thursday, but Wednesday night we're at almost capacity. I've got 5 seats, like I said, left. So I just put something on my social media today, and I'll keep it up, and I'll keep you posted on the amount of seats for the stakeout on Wednesday night. But after that, and then after our special day together on Thursday, we'll go into Super Bowl. One more thing about that. The sessions for the conference are also going to be available through the podcast. I know many of you have asked me about that. Yeah. There's a lot of people that can't come this year for a lot of reasons, and it's totally understandable, man. I mean, we want to make the content available. Our point is the content, and so we're going to have the content out through the podcast, the sessions on Thursday, the worship service on Thursday night, and then we're going to be doing some recording live here too, Luke, on the podcast. Yep. While you're here in town as well, and looking forward to you and your bride coming down to see. Can't wait for that. So yeah, Super Bowl. So obviously the Chiefs are going to win, and
three-peat.
It's going to be a three-peat. Here's why. I'm not just talking. People hate on the Chiefs. I love it. I mean, I was walking through the airport this weekend with Chiefs hat. People are literally booing us. And I just say we love the hate. Just keep bringing it. Why you hate what's great in sports? You hate what's great. That's bottom line. Yep. So all the hate just means they're great. The facts are facts, though. You know, all these people are talking about Mahomes is getting all these calls. There is a lot of statistics to argue against that even being true.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are penalized far more. They're like at the bottom of the NFL as it relates to roughing the passer calls. Mahomes is way down the list on percentage of roughing the passer calls. Josh Allen way higher than him. Mm-hmm. Calls are calls. Football, there's mistakes in football. This happens. I could see a hold 3 out of 5 snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just some of it is judgment call. That's the way it is. Yeah. And so they don't always go right. Mahomes gets calls that, but so do other guys.
Yeah, well, and when it comes to this whole idea of, the Chiefs are being favored, whatever, you are going to find what you're looking for. Whatever narrative you want to support, you're going to find it, and that is what I'm seeing. Is okay. Yeah, if I randomly wanted to, say that the Tennessee Titans are being favored, sure, I can go find a narrative throughout the season and point. But nobody's talking about when not Malik Willis, he's at the Packers now. When old Will Levis gets roughing the passer because the Titans suck. So nobody's talking about that. But yeah, when it comes to the Chiefs, I mean, and Mahomes is on his way rather to being one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest.
The question is now, is he the greatest? That's the question. Mm-hmm. Three-peat would put him on that conversation, even though he hasn't won 7. Here's the only difference right now between Mahomes and Brady is time.
Yep.
That's it. At this time in their careers, he is greater than Tom Brady.
Yep, he is.
He's thrown more yards. He's thrown more touchdowns. He's won more games. Every stat. And then when you look at all-time stats, Luke, all-time stats, he's now second in basically all of them. When they win their next Super Bowl, it's the last thing that he's not second in because he's tied for third or fourth with like several guys that have won 3.
Yeah. Because if he wins this one, he'll have 4, correct?
We'll have 4.
Yeah.
He'll be second. Second in every category. And when you compare where Tom Brady was at this time in his career, same amount of games, Mahomes blows him away. So the only thing there is to tell is how long will Mahomes be in the league? If Mahomes plays 20 years, he will be the unquestionable, undisputed greatest player ever. And winning 3 in a row will put him in that discussion. The only thing that separates the two is yardage and Super Bowls, really. Touchdowns and playoff wins. But the reason that is because of time. And I'm not taking anything away from Tom Brady. I think he is, when it's all said and done, right now the greatest ever, just with finality. But the tough thing about the comparison is Mahomes is still going.
Yeah.
And you can't, until Mahomes retires, unless Mahomes exceeds him, nobody's going to be willing to make that concession except for somebody like me, who says, look at the stats. I mean, he is up to this point in his career, the greatest quarterback with this amount of games, this amount of seasons, et cetera. And not only that, you don't want to bet against him in the playoffs. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And Jalen Hurst, I'm sorry, he's not the guy. He's not Mahomes.
No, he was having a much better year 2 years ago when they were when the Eagles made the playoffs 2 years ago. It's essentially a rematch of what was it, 2023. He was much better than he's really declined the past 2 years, and he's been hurt. That's another big thing. He has been hurt, and I don't think he's gonna be at 100% even by the time we get to the Super Bowl.
Barkley will have a great game. Barkley will exceed everybody's expectations, but Barkley will not win the Super Bowl. This will be a three-peat. I predict Travis Kelce will retire after the three-peat, and I think there'll be a little shuffling of the deck. But honestly, the fact is that the dynasty marches on. And I'm just, I mean, you can't take it for granted if you're a Chiefs fan. I mean, this is such an amazing time. I predicted 30-27 Chiefs. It's going to be a close game just because they all are, and Chiefs will win because they always win the close games. And they'll three-peat. Andy Reid will stamp it as the greatest coach ever.
I was going to say that is undisputed, is that Andy Reid is the greatest coach, at least of the modern football era. I mean,
greatest coach, the greatest, at least currently, greatest defensive coordinator currently. Nobody else is that. You got greatest defensive lineman in football, the greatest tight end, the greatest quarterback, and some of the greatest weapons as a unit on one field. They are the greatest team. Yeah. I mean, and arguably this 3-year run may be the historic greatest team ever. So man, you gotta like it. I understand the hate. I do, because if you're not a Chiefs fan, you're sick of it.
Well, again, I am the Alabama college football. I'm the Alabama fan, and but you can't argue that when Nick Saban was there, best coach of all time. At least in college football, and probably the most dominant dynasty in college football of all time. But yeah, there's all kinds of hate. You were hearing the same thing about Alabama, how the refs favor them and it's all rigged and whatever. I mean, I hear that junk all the time. And like you said, the great attracts hate, and that's just how it works.
Hey, that's the recap of the first month of 2025. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time on Church Fans Podcast.